I'm not here to teach anybody really lessons of Torah because I think that all of you can teach me much more than what I know. But I do want to connect this week's Parsha to the life of my grandfather, Chaim. This week's Parsha is called Vayechi, and it means, and he lived. And it immediately talks about the death of Yaakov. So one would ask themselves, why exactly are we talking about someone who died, but the Parsha's name is somebody who lived? And I think that today it's very clear, and we can see that a person lives not because of when they die or how they die, but really because of how they lived and what they believed in. Saba, we've already said, was a Zionist, and he stood very openly for what he believed. One of the last things that he told us, which is very much like Yaakov Avinu, was he made it very clear where he wanted to be buried. And he repeated to us many times that he was going to be buried in Israel and in Jerusalem, and he even went and picked a spot where he wanted to be with a beautiful view of Shmuel HaNavi. And as children, it's very hard to hear from someone that you love, and you don't want to ever think of them passing away. But Yaakov did this with Yosef, and Yosef swore that he was going to bring him to be buried in Eretz Israel, and he did, and so did we. 3 years ago, we all made a trip that we were dreading. We all came, his children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, ministers, presidents, Rosh Memshala, Ramatkalim, everybody came to bury our Saba in Yerushalayim. And it's very much like this week's Parsha. Also, our Saba always blessed us. He was a Kohen, and every single Friday, he made sure to call all the grandchildren, all the children, our rabbi, his friends, to give them a blessing. In this week's Parsha, again, we see the power of a blessing because Yaakov blessed all of his children and his grandchildren and told them what he expected from each one of them and what he blessed them with specifically. And that was our Saba. He blessed us all the time and told us what he expected of us and how he wanted us to live our lives. And I guarantee you that this Yeshivat Chaim is exactly his Vayechi. It's the way he lived his life, and it's the way he wanted us to live our lives. He made it very clear, and we got the message. So we're lucky that we have the blessing to have the means to be able to make these kind of investments, like Shahi said, investments in the future, investments in people like you, in students like you, who are actually going to be Vayechi, and will live on, and will pray for other people's lives, and will fight for other people's lives, and will study Torah in merit of other people. And that is the lives, Chaim, that my grandfather would have wanted. I just want to take a moment also to remember Hadar Goldin, who was a fighter and who died in a very difficult way. And I don't think he ever thought, and he ever told anyone where he wanted to be buried or how he wanted to be buried. So that is something that we can't take in our hands. But what we can do is give his life and his name to the future. And today we started a Sefer Torah that was actually brought, the idea was brought by one of your students, Elia Levi. And I thank you for giving us the opportunity to inspire those around. And even it comes back full circle because Shmulik, his twin brother Tzur, who's a real gibor, was your mefaked. So again, nothing is by coincidence. It's not a coincidence that it's the week of Asara B'Tevet, that is my grandfather's yahrzeit, that it's the day that Jerusalem was put under siege, which is in fact where my grandfather in the end was buried. And it is also the day that was chosen to say Kaddish for those that didn't have an opportunity to be buried or to have been said Kaddish in the Holocaust. And unfortunately, like people like Hadar. So now, as we start my grandfather's yahrzeit today, in the Yeshivat Chaim, during the Parasha of Vayechi, we will invest in building lives and you will learn from the Torah, which is our lives as Jews, and dedicate your lives to Am Israel and to Medinat Israel, beginning in this building, which represents exactly who my Saba was. Thank you.